Tune in to Penny Radio at 6 p.m. every Fridays and follow our social media handles on PenyGh for both Facebook and YouTube. You can as well follow my social media handles for updates with AC underscore K being my IG handle and ACK Aqua being my Facebook handle. 감사합니다. Thank you. Well, what do we have here? That's right. I am ACK and I am a Penny Radio. Hi, one may ask. You guessed correctly. I have my own show, ladies and gentlemen. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so yeah, here I am. I'm super excited about the things we've got planned for you on this show. Tell me about it. It will be a great definition of one super weird, yeah. It would be in depth, so get ready. And to be the first to listen on this program, tune in to Penny Radio at 6 p.m. every Fridays and follow our social media handles on PenyGh for both Facebook and YouTube. You can as well follow my social media handles for updates with AC underscore K being my IG handle and ACK Aqua being my Facebook handle. 감사합니다. Thank you. Okay. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Tell Me About It. I am your host ACK, and just like you heard and just like the jingle said, this is Tell Me About It, TMAI with me, ACK. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a place where we tell you about everything. I think the jingle did a lot of intro and everything, so I'll just jump that out of it. Welcome again to today's episode of TMAI. Well, today we are going to talk about emotions. Yes, emotions are strange. They are things that, how do I describe them? They are part of our everyday life, yet depending on who you are unable to express your emotions or you overexpress your emotions. So, without much ado, I would get right into it. What are emotions? I think we'll first define emotions. But before that, we are using an article from Very Well Mind. And then, as you already know, this show uses a lot of internet search and articles and then, whatever you have it. So, yes, we'll start with the definition of emotions. And then, according to the book Discovering Psychology by Don Hackenberry and Sandra E. Hackenberry, okay, they are either siblings or married couples. Who knows? Married couple, who knows? Okay, so they define an emotion as a complex psychological state that involves three distinct components: a subjective experience, a psychological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. Well, what I talked about, I don't even know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, basically. Yep, back at it. We are going to talk deeper into, we are going to go deeper into the song. You get the song? Anyway, yeah. So, we'll start by talking about what the psychologist said. And then he said there are three components, which is the behavioral, there's the psychological, and then the subjective experience. So, in addition to defining emotions, let's first define the key elements he spoke about. And I think we should start with subjective experience. When it comes to emotions, we usually express our emotions based on one subjective experience because of our previous experiences or whatever it is that we've had. We either get hungry is not an emotion. Okay, we either get angry or we either get excited about something, a situation, or whatever it is that we find ourselves in. So while experts believe that there are a number of basic universal emotions that are experienced by people all over the world, regardless of the background or culture, researchers also believe that experiencing emotions can be highly subjective. So what would make me angry would not make another person angry. So what would make me smile is not the same thing that would make another person smile. That makes our emotions subjective, you know. So yes, at least that is what I got from that particular sector. So while we have a broad label for emotions such as anger, sadness, or happiness, your own experiences of these emotions may be much more multidimensional, hence subjective, just like I said. So what the way we express our emotions or the way we feel these emotions are distinct from one person to another. So someone may say something to me and I would laugh, and then another person would say something to another person and the person would laugh. I think we talked about comedy last week, saying that it's not an easy job trying to make everyone laugh in the room at the same time, because what makes someone laugh is different from what makes another person laugh. So let's go to the psychological response. If you've ever felt your stomach lurk from anxiety or your heart palpate with fear, then you realize that emotions also cause strong psychological reaction. So we feel emotions and experience psychological reactions simultaneously or simultaneously, whichever way you pronounce it, depending on the school you went to. Emotions are such that it's either they come before or after you have the psychological reaction. You're feeling those goosebumps or whatever it is, depending on anything. Yeah. So it says that the autonom. What am I saying? Chonchoning. And then I'm jumping that part. Anyway, the sympathetic nervous system is charged with controlling the body's fight or flight reactions. So, okay. So when facing a threat, these responses automatically prepare your body to flee from danger or face the threat head on. Okay. So basically that is the emotion. And then we talked about we are talking about the behavioral now. So the final component is perhaps one that you are most familiar with, the actual expression of emotion. We spend a significant amount of time interpreting the emotional expressions of the people around us. Our ability to accurately understand these emotions is tied to what psychologists call emotional intelligence, and these expressions play a major part in our overall body language. I remember we talked about what's this? Is it IQ and DQ in one of the episodes? You can go scroll through. I don't remember the episode, but we talked about IQ and EQ. And then from this article, it's saying that it's very important to know your EQ. So the emotions, which is very important, leads, or the behavioral aspect of the emotions leads to the creation or the determination of your emotional intelligence. So your ability to understand people and then relate to them is your emotional intelligence. So basically, that is what it is telling us. And then there is a distinct difference between emotion and mood. I think people use these words simultaneously. Emotion, mood, emotions. I'm emotional. I'm feeling emotional. I'm not in a good mood. It's used different. So basically, it's different. There's a distinct difference between them. And then I read in everyday language, people often use the term emotions and mood interchangeably. Okay, just like I said, but psychologists actually make distinctions between the two. So the question is, how do they differ? An emotion is normally quiet, short-lived, but intense. Emotions are also likely to have a definite and identifiable cause. For example, after disagreeing with a friend over politics, you might feel angry for a short period of time. A mood, on the other hand, is usually much milder than an emotion, but longer lasting. In many cases, it can be difficult to identify the specific cause of a mood. For example, you might find yourself feeling gloomy for several days without any clear identifiable reason. So basically, the difference between mood and then emotion is that emotions are identifiable, whereas moods are not identifier, but it's quite difficult for you to figure out the cause of what changed the cause that changed the mood, as to you finding out what made you angry or something else. So we are going to the next one where we discuss the 6 types of emotions. But before that, let's go for a short commercial break. And yes, no, we will be right back. Quick break. We are back, and then for now, we are going to talk about the 6 types of emotions. So these type of emotions have an effect on human behavior, and depending on how you behave, these emotions may, should I call it, affect you, or whichever way it is that you call it. Yes. So let's, without much ado, let's just start. And we'll start with the basic emotions. When we talk about basic emotions, we are talking about the happiness, the sadness, the disgust, the fear, the surprise, the anger. The list goes on and on and on. The basic emotions are basically the basic. I'm using the words, the same words again. The basic emotions are usually the simple emotions that we are all familiar with, and then the ones we express. So you're happy, I'm happy, that kind of thing. Those are the basic emotions. And then disgust, surprise, anger, embarrassment. But initially there was 6 basic emotions. That is the happiness, the sadness, the disgust, the fear, the surprise, and anger. And then later other 6 emotions were added. That is the pride, the shame, the embarrassment, and excitement. And this is all according to one psychologist, I think Paul Ekman, his definition of the basic emotions. So yes, and after the basic emotions, which is the first one, the second emotion, or the second type of emotion, is the combining emotions. And then this is like the color wheel. So when I talk about color wheel, I'm talking about the combination of 2 colors to form another color. I think red and white, pink, the combination of primary colors would form secondary colors, and a combination of secondary and primary colors can form tertiary colors. I didn't throw my... Okay. So yes. So according to these theories, 2 basic emotions come together to form a combining emotion. So let's see what the psychologist is trying to say. He's saying that emotions can be combined to form different feelings, much like, oh, okay. And then according to this theory, the most basic emotion acts like building blocks. Okay, so more complex, sometimes mixed emotions are blending of these more basic ones. An example is the combination of joy and trust, creating love. So joy and trust is the combination, is what creates the emotion love. That's what creates the emotion love. So rather than being entirely distinct, however, the researchers found that people experience these emotions along a gradient. So we are going to talk about the 6 basic emotions, which is happiness. How do you express yourself? How do you show that you are happy? You either use a facial expression, which could be a smile, a laughter, or you could use a body language, such as either a relaxed stance or moving, like moving your whole body and everything. And then the tonation of your voice becomes upbeat. That is all depending on the kind of person you are, because when I'm happy, the way I express my happiness would definitely be different from the way another person expresses his happiness. So, and then the way you speak as someone who is happy is definitely different from someone who is sad. So, the tonation, your tonation, your body language, your facial expressions, they all express or tell someone whether you're happy or you're sad. But then you can always use either a smile or happiness to explain, because someone's emotional or something that shows that the person is sad is the person smiling. So you wouldn't be able to tell whether the person is sad or happy. So yes, the next one is sadness. Sadness is another type of emotion, often defined as a transient emotional state characterized by feeling of disappointment, grief, hopelessness, disinterest, and damped mood. So like other emotions, sadness is something that all people experience from time to time. In some cases, people can experience prolonged and severe period of sadness that can turn into depression. And then some of the things that shows that someone is sad is crying. However, like I keep on stressing on, what shows someone is sad may be crying, but what shows another person is sad may be smiling. Because crying is not an emotion. I believe it's not an emotion that expresses sadness alone. There are some people who cry when they are happy, and then there are some people who smile when they are happy. It's up to you to determine the kind of person you are dealing with. And then it says here quietness and then withdrawal from others. Sometimes when someone wants to be in their alone time, the person may not be sad. The person wants to think through things. But then however, it's still something that should like prompt you that someone may be sad. However, it's not the only thing that shows that someone is sad. I may not want to speak to people, but that does not necessarily mean that I am sad. And then quietness and then dampened mood, that, and then crying, like I said, I can be smiling. So yes, and then fear. Fear is a powerful emotion that can also play an important role in survival. When you face some sort of danger and experience fear, you go through what is known as the fight or flight response. Okay, so your muscles become tense, your heart rate and respiration increase, and your mind becomes more alert, priming your body to either run from the danger or stand and fight. This response helps ensure that you are prepared to effectively deal with threat in your environment. So what are some of the expressions that shows that someone is afraid or the person is fearful? The person either attempts to hide or flee from the threat, and then the person either has this heaviness in breathing or shortness in breathing, whichever way you call it. And then there's this facial expressions such as widening the eyes and pulling back the chin and all those kind of things. So there's disgust, there's anger. Let me talk about the anger. So some of the facial expressions that shows that someone is angry would be frowning or glaring. And then the body language that would probably show that someone is angry is when the person takes a strong stance or turns away from. So if you're having a conversation with someone, obviously I keep on putting it there, not always. When you're having a conversation with someone and then the person naturally walks away, it's either the person is preventing himself or herself from exploding from anger, and then taking a strong stance and not wanting, maybe you're having a conversation with someone and then it turns into a heated argument, and then the person is not willing to listen to your opinion, and person is still standing on the ground, and then all that shows. And then the tonation of someone who is angry changes. A friend once told me that Ghanaians are only able to express their anger. Why? Because the only time you see a Ghanaian expressing the emotion, at least this is stereotypical, I'm putting it in quotes, is when the Ghanaian is angry, and then the Ghanaian man or woman is angry, and then the person is shouting all over the place. Rarely would you find them expressing other emotions. Obviously they do love and all that, but then according to my friend, their biggest emotion, the biggest emotion they do express is that of anger. We do express, I'm talking as if I'm not Ghanaian, we do express is that of anger. And then some people, there are ways to determine if someone is angry. The way the person speaks changes, and then either the person would end up turning red, sweating, the person would be using probably foul languages, something the person isn't used to. You realize that the behavior of the person changes. And then while anger is often thought of as like a negative emotion, it can sometimes be a good thing because it can be constructive in helping clarify your needs in a relationship, and it can also motivate you to take actions and find solutions to things that are bothering you. So if you keep everything within you, how would you be able to figure out that this is bothering me or that is bothering me? But when you get angry and then you express yourself, that does not mean that you should get angry and then dump all your should I call it your anger spirit onto someone else? No. That is a no. So yes. And then anger can become a problem. However, when it is excessive or expanded or expressed in ways that are unhealthy, you know what I was talking about. The fact that you are angry does not mean that you should be angry at your other friend. Like, oh, there's this thing, so don't let the sun set upon your anger. So when you're angry today, the next day should be gone. And then the moment you're angry, you should know the way you express yourself, because whatever you do may affect the people around you. You may say some things you don't mean, because things said in anger is believed to be true. You may not mean it. Maybe a part of you really means it, but you may not mean it. And then it affects the other person. It's more like you are spreading your anger to other people, because you saying hurtful things to other people in your anger may get those people hurt as well. Who knows? So basically, that is anger for you. So anger has been linked to heart diseases and diabetes. If you don't want to die young, check your anger. And then there's surprise. There are other types of emotions such as amusement, contempt, embarrassment, excitement, guilt, pride in achievement, relief, satisfaction, shame, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But then apart from this particular psychologist, other theories of emotions have come up, and then let me read this. As with many concepts in psychology, not all theorists agree on how to classify emotions or what the basic emotions actually are. Okay. So while Elkam's theory is one of the best known, other theorists have proposed their own ideas about what emotions make up the core of the human experience. Okay. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And then we keep on arguing about whose emotions is better, whose definition is better. In all, we know that emotions are things that happen or that do occur in our everyday life. And as such, we should be careful of how we express them. Not necessarily careful, we should be able to express our emotions as well, the good and then the bad, because they help the people around us understand us better. So there are some people who find it difficult to express their emotions. When they are sad, you wouldn't be able to tell whether they are sad. When they are happy, you wouldn't be able to tell whether they are happy. And then when they are surprised, you wouldn't be able to tell whether they are surprised. So when it happens that way, what do you do? So you are supposed to be able to express your emotions to the people you care about, and sometimes you are supposed to be able to express your emotions to yourself as well, because I don't even want to. I want to stop using this extroverted thing, but then I'll still use it. Extroverts, they say, are able to express themselves. Introverts, they say, are not able to express themselves. So what happens when you are not able to express yourself in a situation? You just have to find a way to deal with expressing your emotions. And then there's this. I watched this movie. He's psychometric. That was the first time I knew of the health issue of someone who is unable to express his emotion, which is alexithymia. So I'm not saying that whoever is unable to express their emotion has alexithymia, but then I'm saying that there is alexithymia, and then there are people who are just unable to not necessarily express themselves, but they just find it difficult to express their emotions. So it's more like they are guarded on their emotions. So how do you go about this thing? I believe you'd have to first understand and accept the emotions you find yourself going through, because they are your emotions. Trying to push them away as what boils and then brings them all up, and then one day you just punch and dump it on someone or your friend, or dump it, and then it dampens your spirit, you get depressed, it leads to a whole lot of things. Because I realize that anger is the emotions that is really bottled up. And then some also do not know how to, should I say, express. It's just that you just have to be aware of yourself and then aware of your emotions. And then little by little, you would be able to like express yourself. So if you look unhappy around your friends, and then you know very well that you are okay, you're just, I feel like you can try copying, and until you get better at it, fake it till you make it. You can try copying the emotions or the way your friends really relate. When they're happy, they smile. You find it difficult to smile, you smile along. Someday you may be laughing along, and then you would be surprised as to whether you are the same person who couldn't express their emotions or whatever it is that it is. So yes, this brings us to the end of today's episode of Tell Me About It with me, ACK. Okay, we have a question here from Lodlin Laye, and she says, I'm here. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you. Kamsahamnida. And it's good to see you. It's been long since we heard from you. I hope you're doing well. We have another message from Frank. It says, why is it hard for guys to express their emotions? Well, I don't think it's hard for guys to express their emotions. Let me rechange what I said. I think it's difficult for some guys, or those who find it difficult to express their emotions, because of their cultural background. So if you listen from beginning, I talked about emotions having three forms: the subjective, the psychological, and then the behavioral. So if you look at the subjective point of view, your surroundings, our surroundings, and where we come from, it's part of it. Like, it plays a role with how you were brought up, and then how you become in the future, or how you grow. So as a Ghanaian male, as a Ghanaian male growing up, you'd realize that you're probably told consistently when crying to stop, and then the statement that follows would be "Bemensu." So it's a perception, or it's something that is dropped into your mind since childhood. And it's when you realize that you find yourself in that situation, it's up to you for you to change it. Because there's nothing wrong. I don't find it wrong, but then we are still in the society we are talking about. So why would men cry when there's this adage and this belief that says that men are not supposed to cry? Basically, it has an effect. Because if you go to a funeral ground, So if you go to a funeral ground, you realize that the women express their sadness through the tears, and then you ask yourself, how are the men going to express their sadness? It's not that they are happy about the death of the person. It's because they say "Beme Isu." Even at that funeral ground, you realize that if a guy is crying, they'll be like "Beme Isu." Instead of comforting the person and saying it's okay, just the same way they'll comfort the woman, they'll just say "Beme Isu." So I feel men find it difficult to express their emotion because their emotions are usually downplayed by the society and then the people that live in the society. You know, society is made up of we, the humans, and whatever it is as well. So we are part of it. So if you want to change and be able to express your emotions, it's sometimes up to you for you to take the very bold step and be confident to say that, okay, I'm feeling sad, I'm going to cry. It's more like being vulnerable. We've talked about vulnerability on this show before. It's about being vulnerable and accepting your emotions, learning that, okay, this is it, and accepting them. Okay, I'm sad. It's not wrong to be sad. I'm jealous. It's not wrong to be jealous. But then the whole thing becomes an issue when you turn your negative emotions and make them, if you find out that these emotions are negative, you try to get positivity out of these emotions instead of leaving them negative as it is. We have another comment from Nana Joakumsen, and she says, since you are talking about emotions, can you tell us how you felt or what your emotions were when you on knee? The first runner up of the Korean embassy competition. My emotions were, how do I describe them? I think I've not even. The first. How do I even say this? Whatever it is, Nanaja wants to just announce that I'm the first runner up for the Korean embassy's competition. Oh, okay. Nanaja, thanks for the announcement. What was my emotion? I was literally. I'm using the same words again. I was surprised because I least expected it, and then honestly, when I started, I participated in both the quiz and then the video challenge. So when I first saw the quiz, that went valued participants, and I was like, here we go again, because last year I participated and then it was the same thing. So I was going through my email to work on something, and here we go again. And then I just snapped and I was like, you are the first runner up. I was like, I opened my mouth, surprised. I was like, really? I went through, back up, trying to read everything again. I was excited. But I don't know if people are like that. I'm unable to express myself and then shout. I wish I could do that, but then unfortunately I was at work when I read that email, so I couldn't really express myself very well. Like shouts at the workplace. I have, should I call myself, different personalities. Quite the quiet type at work, the shouting type at home, split personalities, whatever it is. So I went home, and then it was when I was speaking to my friends. Oh, it was Reina. Reina was the one who made me shout, and then speaking to my friends and all that, I sort of brought the happiness and the joy. But so I was excited, but I just didn't know how to express my excitement. So anyway, basically, that's it. My emotions, excitement, surprise, kandom padaso, like chincha. And congratulations on your win. Thank you very much, Nana Jakumsen. So yes. Thank you, Kamsamida. Anyway, we've talked about emotions today, and then we've gotten to know the six types of emotions. My advice to all of us would be for us, both male and female, to express our emotions wherever it is we find ourselves. However, in expressing our emotions, we shouldn't step on the toes of others. We shouldn't hurt others in the process of expressing our emotions. So I'm basically saying that we should think twice before we express our emotions, especially that of anger, because I've realized in our society, people think that in expressing their anger, they are trying to help the other person. But then they don't check themselves, because there's this belief that I have: if a situation occurs or if something happens, the parties involved have a role to play. So if there's an argument and then between a friend of mine and me myself, it's how do I put it? Whatever it is, I would have to be able to express myself to my friend. Just say it the way it is without like, sometimes you step on each other's toes, but then it shouldn't be the extent of which it could end your friendship. So just know about the things, and then just don't always express your anger. Just express your happiness and enjoy sometimes. We have another comment from Nanaja Kumsi. Nanaja Kumsi is on me today. She said, my friends call me a crybaby because I'm a very emotional person. The type that cries when I see someone cry oh wow, good for you. I never considered myself emotional until recently. I think 3-4, I think this year. It looks like I've been literally crying almost every now and then to express my emotions, whether sadness or happiness. I don't know if my hormones or my genes are changing. But like you, I just don't cry. I'm trying to be vulnerable, but then I don't know how long it will take for me to be able to just come out of my shell of don't cry. So yes, basically this was TMAI. Tell me about it with me, ACK. I just almost destroyed something here. And thank you very much for tuning in, Nanaja Kumsen. Thank you very much for tuning in, Frank. Thank you very much for tuning in, Lordlane. Thank you all for tuning in. Nanaja says, in my opinion, expressing one's emotion is a good thing because there were days I felt very suffocated to the point I had suicidal thoughts because I had held in my emotions for long. Music helped me. Wow, interesting. I do not dispute this fact. I do not disagree with. I agree. Expressing our emotions is. Frank says Nanaja needs medical attention. Well, she it seems she's out of it. She said music helped her, but then she still needs someone to speak to about her emotions. Nanaja, we are here for you. It's a case here for you. So expressing yourself, I think, is also good. You should express yourself. That one, dear. If you're angry at someone, just say it as it is. But what I'm saying is that you should bear in mind that as the person is 70% at fault, so are you 30% at fault. Because for a relationship to work, or for every relationship, whether family, friendship, romantic, it's for two people to come together, or 3 or more people to come together for it to work. So the whole thing has to be together, and for it to be together, for it to work. What am I saying? I'm repeating myself. One person may be at fault, but then definitely the other person who would have a little bit of like a role to play in the fault that was mistake that was committed by the other person. So you just have to accept your mistakes, both apologize and then move on, which we find difficult to do. And then Frank's okay, and then Anaja says, but the best remedy was when I finally got it out of my chest and spoke with my best friend and cried too. Well, that is true. Like, bottling up emotions is something that I was about to say I'm good at. I used to really bottle up a lot of my emotions, but now of late, usually I just don't. If I want to cry, I just cry. If I want to smile, I just smile. If I want to do anything, if I want to be surprised, I just be surprised. I just let it go instead of just keeping it out. And then Anaja also says that one can express themselves well when they know and feel they are not being judged. Well, you've raised a very high point over there, being judged. I think the reason we do not express ourselves in over here is also because of the judgment. So I think it goes back to Frank's questions. Why is it hard for guys to express themselves? I was talking about the Beme and Sue thing. If men are not supposed to cry, if a man cries, the man, or there's this perception that I'm going to be judged because I'm crying. So if I'm going to be judged because I'm crying, why should I cry in front of someone? So the judgment is also one reason as to why people do not express their emotions. It's similar to interest, what we talked about last week, interest. Why would I express my interest to you if I know definitely my interests are quite different from yours, and then you're going to judge me based on them? Because it's something that is socially accepted that men are not supposed to cry. So if you cry, you're going to be judged for as a man crying, definitely. So it becomes a conflict of interest. You're not supposed to cry, you are crying. So if we begin to normalize some things, not necessarily, if we begin to normalize emotions, the expression of emotions in our part of the world, I think it would be easier for people. Because I think what stops people a lot from committing suicide in our part of the world would be probably our Christian background. Like Nanajwa said, she felt so suffocated to the extent that she had to speak to someone. And then music, obviously, the music, it takes your mind off the situation at times, and then it keeps on bottling up. So until you've expressed the way you actually feel, how sad you feel, how happy you feel to someone, and then I think it's becoming more common for us to say that this person doesn't care about me, that person doesn't care about me, instead of you just speaking to the person. You don't know what the person is going through until you speak to the person. You may have not heard from this person in a while, and then you think the person doesn't care about you. Why don't you take the first step to figure out if that person is truly okay? So sometimes the judgment is also one of the I feel like it's also a main point. To me, it's a main point, because if I'm before I speak to you, I sort of read you from what you're going to say based on the very few things that I say. And then I become very careful as to what I say. And then I choose what to tell you and what not to tell you. That is me. Because if I feel I'm going to be judged by you from what you are saying about someone else right in front of me, I'm not going to speak to you about it. So it all boils down to the judgment. It's really a very great and then high point, I think. Thank you very much, Nanajwa. Oh, so yes, I think that's all. Those are the comments for now. Thank you very much for tuning in, Nanajwa, Frank, and then Lordlin. Thank you very much for tuning in. This was Tell Me About It with ACK at Penny Radio. Hope for the hopeless. Tune in to this. No, join me this same time next week, 6:00 p.m. So we get or we discuss or we talk about another interesting topic, which I don't know the topic next week. I don't know which topic we'll choose next week. And then if you also have some topics you want us to discuss, you can send it to us on all social media handles. We are PenyGh everywhere, on Facebook, on Instagram. Or you can even send them to our website, radio.penygh.com. You can as well listen to our other programs at the same site, radio.penygh.com, PenyGh on Facebook, YouTube. We would like you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and then our Facebook channel so that you just get the updates instantly. Instantly we go live. But then TMAI is every Friday, 6:00 p.m. So yes, thank you very much for tuning in. Again, this was ACK. Oh yes, you can find me on social media as ACK Aqua on Facebook, _AC.K on Instagram, and ACK __ on. Whoa, today I remember on Twitter. I'm doing well, So yes, thank you very much for tuning in. Till next week. Bye bye.